Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
It's not long until Vince Cable's big moment. This afternoon, he'll deliver his First Leader's keynote speech at the Liberal Democrat conference in Bournemouth. He argues the party must have bold ideas, perhaps none more bold than Mr Cable arguing that it is perfectly plausible he could become the next Prime Minister. Such ambition. So do the Lib Dem faithful feel the same way? Sounds like a job for Emma Vardy and her mood box.
If there's one thing politics has shown us in recent years, it's to expect the unexpected. We know Jeremy Corbyn has his eyes on Downing Street, but we're here to ask the Lib Dems whether Vince Cable could become Prime Minister. Yes or no?
Oh God, yes. Thank you.
That's very decisive.
Oh, definitely.
How do you see that
He'd
happening?
be an awesome Prime Minister. Well, winning some elections would be good, but yeah, he would be awesome.
Macron, Trudeau, D66, the Liberal Party in Netherlands, all in the last couple of years have come to the top from nowhere. So Vince, yes, of course he can.
I'm a great believer that ageism shouldn't exist.
We're not seeing the Lib Dem fight back just yet, though, are we?
It's on its way.
Well, he's an MP.
Could he be the top MP?
Of course he could become Prime Minister. And I tell you what, he's bright, intelligent. He can actually string two words together without actually screwing up other people.
Well, you know what? There has been a few no's, but most of them disappeared pretty quick and didn't want to tell us why. We have a dissenter.
I think you've got to be realistic. It's going to be a long time before the Liberals go into government again. I mean, I think we're going to seriously increase the number of seats we hold, but becoming a majority government, not going to happen.
Could Vince Cable become Prime Minister?
It's not entirely impossible. I had £10 each way on Leicester to win the Premiership, and you know what happened.
I think Vince is respected, intelligent, his economic perspective on things is exactly what we need.
From where we've had really slick media-trained David Camerons, Tony Blairs, I think people are now looking for someone maybe a bit more voice of reason with that sort of experience. So, I mean, it's always a long shot, but you've got to hope, haven't you?
It's a reluctant yes, though.
It is a reluctant yes, because so much has got to change in politics first. I mean, I think we just need to we've made the right start. We're staking out our ground, but it's going to be, I think it'll be a few leaders before we can put a Prime Minister in 10 Downing Street.
Barring a few dissenting voices, there's a lot of love here for Vince Cable. Many people told us he has the qualities he needs to carry him to Downing Street.
Well done, Vince Cable there, with your own supporters, of course. Well, with me now from Bournemouth is the newly elected Liberal Democrat MP, Christine Jardine. Welcome to the programme, Christine. Vince Cable says he's a plausible Prime Minister, and your members clearly think he could go all the way. What is a plausible path to power for the Liberal Democrats?
Well, I think you see in Vince Cable a man who has all the credibility, all the substance, all the economic arguments to be Prime Minister, and the path for us is to put that case to the British people. They know that we are the only party who believes that we should stay within the EU, and that we want to give them the choice. Once we see what the deal is, whether it is chaotic or whether it's a good deal, they will have the chance to vote on that. And there are also serious issues in this country at the moment that are being overlooked because Brexit has invaded every section of the economy. We've got a huge wealth gap, we've got inequality, and that's, I think, what Vince will be laying out today. He will be laying out quite clearly the path that he sees to us becoming the party of government.
Right, but you still haven't plotted or charted for me the path that will take you from your current position with 12 MPs and polling at around 7 to 9% to the party of government and Vince Cable as Prime Minister.
Well, that's obviously about winning more seats, and with Vince Cable as leader, we will set out a case plan for Vince becoming Prime Minister is for Vince to set out the case for the Liberal Democrats to tackle the issues that we face in this country.
Right, but in the election that we've just had, that clearly failed, and we're back to two-party politics because the results showed the two largest parties getting more than 82% of the vote.
But that election is now behind us, and what we're doing now is looking over the next 2 to 5 years. We're looking at what Brexit will mean. We're seeing a Prime Minister in Theresa May who is weakened. She's incredibly weak, and we have an opposition leader who is thorough to the left-wing politics of the 70s, which was rejected. Vince is the only credible leader with substance, who, let's not forget, was the one who warned about the impending financial crisis in the last decade. So we have a leader who can talk to people, who understands. He's a real person, and the way for us to plot that path back is through Vince's leadership.
Are you relying on everything going wrong in this country in terms of Brexit and on the domestic side in order for you to emerge shining from the chaos?
No, the last thing we want is for everything to go wrong. What we want is for Theresa May to listen to common sense. We want her to listen to what Vince is saying, and for the grown-ups in both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party to put pressure on the leadership to listen, because the last thing any of us want is economic chaos or for a bad deal from the European Union. What we want is a positive outcome, and that will demand that people within the Conservative Party and the Labour Party stand up and say, this is the path we need to take. They need to come and join us and take a sensible path which will have a positive outcome.
Is there any prospect of a Lib-Lab coalition with Jeremy Corbyn, John McDonnell and Vince Cable all sitting around the cabinet table?
What I've said is that we need the sensible people in the Labour Party, the ones who are pro-EU, to come and we need an end to tribal politics. We need to look at the best solution for the UK, and that will mean, as I say, people from the other two major parties coming with us and saying this is the path that we need to plot, and then we need to give the British people the choice. They said they wanted to negotiate out of Europe. Now, once we have the deal, they need to see if that is what they actually wanted.
Christine Jardine in Bournemouth, thank you very much.
Sir Vince Cable has, in his first speech to the Liberal Democrat conference as leader, called for his party to lead the fight against Brexit. He urged what he described as the sensible grown-ups in other parties to work with the LibDems to keep Britain in the single market and customs union. Our political correspondent Vicky Young is at the conference in Bournemouth. Her report contains some flashing images.
After two dismal election results, the Liberal Democrats need a revamp. Vince Cable's not exactly a fresh face on the political scene, but the 74-year-old says this is the time for grown-ups in all parties to join forces and prevent Brexit becoming a disaster. His promise, a referendum once negotiations with the EU have finished.
This is not a call for a rerun. It is not a call for a second referendum on Brexit. This is a call for a first referendum on the facts.
The Lib Dems should lead the fight against Brexit, he said.
But we should not be consumed by Brexit to the exclusion of everything else. We're not a single-issue party. We're not UKIP in reverse.
He said returning to government was his aim.
And my role as your leader is to be a credible potential Prime Minister.
Sir Vince called for major public spending on infrastructure, a penny rise in income tax to fund the health service and government-backed house building to help young people onto the property ladder.
We've got to end the stranglehold of oligarchs and speculators in our housing market. I want to see fierce tax penalties on the acquisition of property for investment purposes by overseas residents.
At the last election, opposing Brexit didn't attract voters in the way the Liberal Democrats had hoped. In this speech today, Vince Cable is trying to show that he's prepared to grapple with the broader issues facing the country. And he hopes that his past experience in government will add credibility to that message.
Vince Cable is sounding ambitious. What do Lib Dem members make of it?
Vince Cable says he could be the next Prime Minister. It's not going to happen, is it?
Not with that attitude. I don't think so. So I think absolutely going forward he could be, and I think we all truly believe in liberal values, and that's exactly why we're here.
Macron became president, so anything can happen.
Are things volatile enough to get Vince Cable into number 10?
Why not? Why not indeed?
Now this veteran politician must show that he can deliver results. Vicky Young, BBC News, Bournemouth.
Sir Vince Cable has called for wealth taxes as he insisted his party is not just UKIP in reverse, caring only about Brexit. Sir Vince used his first keynote address to the LibDems conference as leader to suggest a tax system shift to imposing levies on wealth gained through property and savings rather than work. He said EU withdrawal ranked alongside the Iraq War and the banking crisis as one of the three great disasters to hit Britain in recent years.
Now another disaster looms: Brexit. It's the product of a fraudulent and frivolous campaign led by two groups of silly public schoolboys reliving their dormitory pillow fights. And now, thanks to Boris Johnson, they've degenerated into a full-scale school riot, with the head teacher hiding, barricaded in her office.
Jeremy Corbyn and his supporters on the left have strengthened their position within the Labour Party with new rules agreed this afternoon by the party's ruling National Executive Committee. In future, candidates for leader and deputy leader will only need to get nominations from 10% of MPs and Euro MPs rather than 15% as now. Well, to explain all this, our political correspondent Michael Crick is in Westminster. Michael, how significant is this?
Very significant. Effectively, these changes, which I expect to be endorsed by the conference next week, are going to entrench the left in power in the Labour Party for the foreseeable future. The question of the threshold for leader, up until now there's been some doubt about whether the left could ever get another leader if Jeremy Corbyn was forced out or had to step down or wanted to retire for some reason. Now, a candidate for leader will only need the support of the nominations from 29 MPs. So that makes it a lot more likely the left could carry on in the leadership. Second, the National Executive Committee is going to have 4 new members, 3 from the local parties, 1 from the unions. That should give Jeremy Corbyn now, from next summer, a working majority for the first time on the NEC. But interestingly today, no talk of changing the rules on reselecting MPs, which a lot of them are worried about local parties wanting perhaps to sack them. But I think tonight Social Democrats and Blairites will be thinking it's going to be a long time before they're back in power within the Labour Party.
Michael Crick at Westminster.
Now, it is not so long since the age factor appeared to firmly do for Ming Campbell's leadership of the Liberal Democrats. But times move on. They seem to move on about every 5 minutes in politics at the moment, and attitudes change too. And Sir Vince Cable made a bit of a virtue of his mature years today. I may be old, he told his conference, but I'm bold. It was really his first chance to knit together the party as leader, and he made clear his determination to mark the Lib Dems out firmly as the Remain party and to differentiate them too from Labour and the Conservatives. A wealth tax for a start, with taxes on property for foreign investors buying houses here as investments.
The Lib Dems say it's time for grown-up politics, and you don't get much more grown-up than Vince Cable. The oldest party leader since Churchill arrived with his deputy today, insisting he too has the experience to be Prime Minister.
Are you ready for government, Sir Vince?
Absolutely, that's exactly right.
His party is pulling in more members, the problem's just getting them elected. Boris Johnson's sister Rachel among those joining this pro-European family. As today their new leader renewed his call for a second referendum on our Brexit divorce deal.
We know, of course, that our call will be resented by the Brexit fundamentalists. We'll be denounced as traitors and saboteurs. But if the definition of sabotage is fighting to protect British jobs and public services and the environment and civil liberties, then I am a proud saboteur.
But even Remainers get tired of hearing about Brexit. Their leader says Lib Dems need other policies, like taxes on second homes and foreign developers.
We're not a single-issue party. We're not UKIP in reverse. We're the government of the future.
It was an unlikely pitch to be Prime Minister, but with 12 MPs and 74 years on the clock, Sir Vince thinks he could be the grandfather of our nation.
But much of his speech has been tried before.
Some people might say it was the same message you had, a load of old Ramoning.
Well, I think being honest with people that the situation we're in is less than perfect and that the UK is heading towards a very disastrous position, that is an honest position.
It's important we've got someone who's grown up, got lots of substantive ideas.
Is it exciting though?
Does it have to be exciting?
Does it have to be exciting to win the voters over?
No, the point is we're talking about doing what's right for the country.
And unlike other leaders, Sir Vince has been in government, but it looks like a long walk if he wants to return. Paul Brand, News at 10, Bournemouth.
I've been